It's Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's recording. Okay. Right. Just discussing from our last circle on Usul.
Yes.
Ijma being one of the sources of Islamic law.
Okay.
Not just Ijma Sahaba, which I think is now the main Ijma which majority of the claims are that the whole Ummah agrees upon. But talk about Ijma al-Ummah, Ijma al-Mujtahideen. Now, if you can just give me your understanding and what the definition of Ijma is.
Well, the definition of Ijma really differs from one faqih to another. We have the majority here when they refer to Ijma, they say the Ijma of the Mujtahideen. And by Mujtahideen we mean the people who have reached such level of knowledge that Mujtahid Mutlaq, meaning they have or even the Mujtahideen within the madhab, the people who have the tools to extract ahkam, rules from Quran and Sunnah directly without taqlid, without relying on someone else. They don't follow opinions of others, that they look the matter themselves and they reach their decisions. So the ijma' of these people is considered ijma', the agreement of these people. This is how what the majority consider to be ijma'. There are some people who say, however, that the ijma' is the ijma' of the Sahaba. This is attributed to the Zahiris, not Ibn Hazm, Dawud bin Ali and Muhammad bin Dawud and Abu Bakr bin Dawud and Ahmed bin Hanbal as well. They say that he used to take ijma' of the Sahaba. What we know from Ahmed bin Hanbal, that he used to disagree about ijma' altogether. But this is what the people of his madhab say, that he takes the ijma' of the Sahaba. Only the problem that the proofs that they use don't help. If you look at every proof that they use, such as the ayah that Shafi'i have used, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقَ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى, whoever do mushaqa, like going to divide from the Prophet. I can't tell you exactly the translation. I didn't know that you are going to do this today, to talk about this. So I don't know the explanation. Probably if I have the Quran, I can read the translation directly. Yeah, in English Quran. So, when you شَقَّ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى, the one who and whoever contradicts and opposes the messenger after the right path has been shown clearly to him and follows other than the believer's way, we shall keep him in the path he has chosen. Now, you see, it doesn't say the follows other than the mujtahideen way. You say the believer's way. This is, like, for example, this is one of the main proofs, which not many people agree with Shafi'i, that this is proof about ijma'. Even the hadith, the weak hadith, the many weak hadith that says لا تجتمع أمتي على ضلالة, my ummah will not gather on ضلالة. It says my ummah, it doesn't say my mujtahideen of my ummah. It doesn't say my sahaba, it doesn't, you understand? لا تزال طائفة من أمتي على الحق, a group of my ummah will remain on the right path. طائفة of my ummah, it doesn't say nobody, no Quran, no Sunnah says that these are Ahl al-Hadith or the Fuqaha or the Mujtahideen. This is just explanation from some other people. They need proof. You understand? This is people who they need proof when they say something, when they explain something. they have to say where they got it from. So the ijma', according to the majority, is the ijma' of the mujtahideen. I said we don't have proof for that. If we have to take their proofs with the use, which really doesn't show, there is nothing to show that ijma' will be is right, or the ijma' of the ummah is right. These proofs all shows that the ijma' of the ummah, the whole ummah, the good ones and the bad ones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ثُمَّ أَوْرَثْنَا الْكِتَابَ الَّذِينَ اصْطَفَيْنَا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا, and then we inherited the book to those that we have chosen amongst our servants. Then we gave the book as inheritance to such of our slaves whom we choose. Then of them are some who wrong their own selves, and of them are some who follow a middle course, and of them are some who are by Allah leave foremost in good deeds. All these are all these people, the one who have excelled in the worship of Allah, those who are wrong themselves, all these are from the ummah, and Allah has inherited them, has given them the book. They inherited the book from the previous nations. So the book is they are from the ummah. You understand? So their agreement, if we have to take that the agreement of the ummah is, the agreement should be counted as well. However, there is nothing in the Quran or Sunnah that shows ijma' is a source from taking ahkam.
But how about when the Sahaba, when they used to make collective decisions, it was done by people like Sayyidina Umar or Abu Bakr, or people who have authority, people who had a scholastic standing, a depth of knowledge.
Yes.
It was never done by a Sahaba who never knew the area, so you would assume that it's only natural for someone.
I would have liked to go through the dalil about ijma', all the dalil that the people use, and say why I disagree, and then I will go with the proofs that there is no ijma'. But I will take it just this way, and then probably we'll have another lesson altogether for the ijma'.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So you say, what about?
But can I just stop you there for 1 second first, because you mentioned a quote about Imam Ahmad never used
ijma'
Sahaba or any form of ijma'.
Yeah.
But he's quoted as saying, let me just find it here. He said that anyone who claims ijma' after the Sahaba has lied. And this is also agreed by Imam al-Shirazi in his book Al-Luma fi Usul Al-Fiqha, where he says that Imam Dawood saying the ijma' of the Sahaba is binding. So is not binding. So what they're saying is that any ijma' except for ijma' Sahaba is not binding.
Yeah. Now I told you that Dawood al-Zahiri is known to have said that the ijma' of the Sahaba is binding. As for what we know from Ahmad bin Hanbal, every narration that comes from anybody, we have to find a chain of narrators to it and find who said it. Do we have chain of narrators? The saying of Ahmad bin Hanbal, this is what we know he said. He said, من ادعى الإجماع فقد كذب. He said, this is clearly what he said. من ادعى الإجماع, look, this is clear. من ادعى الإجماع فقد كذب. Whoever claim that there is ijma', he has lied. وتلك دعوة بشر المريسي, أحمد بن أبي دؤاد وبشر المريسي. This is the claim of Ahmad bin Abi Du'ad and Bishr al-Marisi. Ahmad bin Abi Du'ad and Bishr al-Marisi, when they used to get stuck, when they are asked about, when they used to say the Quran is created, and then when people ask them for their proofs, they will say this is the Ummah has agreed. You understand? So he said this is the claim of Ahmad bin Abi Du'ad and Bishr al-Marisi. ما يدريهم. How do they know? These people who make a claim about ijma', how do they know? لعل الناس اختلفوا. Maybe there are someone, maybe there is different opinion, maybe there is someone who had a different opinion. Now if Ahmad bin Hanbal have said this, and someone tells me that he said except for the Sahaba, I will tell him, okay, give me the chain of narrators to this quote here. And then, how can Ahmad ibn Hanbal, is Ahmad ibn Hanbal so... Ahmad ibn Hanbal was an intelligent person, intelligent enough to understand that if you can't know that the Ummah, if he says the Ummah in his time may have different opinions, then even in the time of the Prophet, there was Sahaba from the early time. There was Sahaba in Bahrain, Bani Abdul Qais. There was Sahaba in Yemen. There was people who came to the Prophet and made bay'ah, and the Prophet told them, go and come back when you hear about me. And these people didn't hear a lot of ahkam from the Prophet. So how can they say the ijma' of the Sahaba here as well? You understand? How can he make claim that there is ijma' of Sahaba? Now, discussing what Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it's not a question of, this is not my argument. This is, how can Ahmad ibn Hanbal say there is ijma' Sahaba when he denies the ijma' of other people just based on maybe there is different opinion? That is goes for the Sahaba as well. Maybe there is different opinion. Unless he say this, the ijma' of Sahaba, that Muhammad is Rasulullah. Definitely, this is an ijma'. The ijma' of Sahaba that La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Islam is the religion, the only religion. This is ijma' of Sahaba. You know why? Because anyone who doesn't agree about this, he's not Sahabi anyway. So we don't. But if Sahabi says, because I am from the people of Badr, therefore drinking alcohol for me is fine. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. There is no harm for those who believe and do good deeds. لَيْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ جُنَاحٌ فِيمَا طَعِمُوا. There is no harm if what they have if what they eat or drink. Even though everybody can come and say, it is the ijma' of the ummah that alcohol is haram. Alcohol is haram by the Quran, not because of the ijma'. But there is here, you have someone who says, no, the Quran, alcohol is not haram for me. You understand? So, or someone who says, comes and say the temporary marriage, marriage of 2 hours or 2 days or 3 days is halal. You understand? How can you say, come and say the Sahaba have agreed about any other matter? I mean, issue like alcohol, and you have someone having a different opinion about drinking alcohol. You have another person having a different opinion about selling of alcohol. So, what are you going to make a claim? What ijma'? Even Shafi'i, when he says the ijma', and you know Shafi'i, you can call him, you can say that the one who made officially the ijma' as a source of religion. I mean, Shafi'i is the one who was asked about ijma' and he went and looked for a proof, because apparently he didn't hear it from his teachers. He didn't learn it before. That's why he went to look for proof, and he came with this ayah as proof, which not many people agree with. Shafi'i says, I am not calling ijma'. This is what he says in his book. I don't call ijma' except something that you will never meet any person of knowledge except that he will tell you that this is ijma'. It's mean that something that anyone that you will meet and ask, he will say this is ijma'. This is, I'm not talking what I believe, I'm talking about the Shafi'i, the way when he introduced ijma', the way he saw it. He say, this is what he gave example, Dhuhr being 4 rak'ah. Where is this from the followers of Shafi'i who come later, and every time they got stuck in something, they have no proof in something or other, this is ijma'. It is ijma' not to do wudu from anything that fire has touched. I mean, you just have to take Sahih Muslim, for example, the Sharh of Nawawi or the Mabsut, or take the books of Shafi'is or books of Malikis and the ijma', everything. Like you sometimes actually, and they admit this as well, you will find one madhab saying it is ijma' to sell the mother of the children like slaves who you have children with, and the other one he says it is ijma' not to sell them. This is the ijma' that we got.
That is the evidence that they bring forward.
No, I mean this is the ijma' went from Shafi'i introducing ijma' and saying ijma' is something that I call ijma' only something that you will never meet someone except that he will tell you the same thing, like prayers being 5. That is what Shafi'i calls ijma'. Later it became ijma' anything that I have no proof for it. Everything that Shafi'i have said and I don't have proof for it, this is ijma'. To the point where there is issues where there is a different opinions about them. Sahaba being differed in them, known, and then they will say this is ijma'. You understand? The fact, what people have done with ijma' is not an issue. It's question of whether the ijma' has brought good or ijma' has brought bad. It's not. This is not how I take my religion. Ijma' never brought any good, because the Prophet said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or let me not use this ayah, someone might understand it in a different way. Al-khayru la ya'ti illa bil-khayr. Look, good will bring good, and bad will bring bad. And these claims of ijma' have not brought except bad. People making takfir on others, people lying about the religion, people instead of going and learning the religion, just rely every time anyone can talk about the religion. What is your proof? This is ijma'.
These are big scholars. These are great scholars.
What?
Who have made these statements?
Statement about what?
About ijma' being a source.
Yeah, like give me a
Shafi'i, as you mentioned there.
I said Shafi'i made a statement. He agrees about. He says that ijma' is source of religion. I don't think it's right. I think he's wrong. However, when he said about ijma', he said some kind of ijma'. He said ijma' is anything that you will not find someone except that he will tell you the same thing.
But Shafi'i also restricts ijma' only to the Sahaba.
No, it's not. We don't have.
It's written in his Risala that he mentions that specifically.
It's not, but you can see that is what he says in the Risala. But you can see that Shafi'i, from his statements, that he takes the ijma' up to his time. You understand? And we can see that the Shafi'is, or the majority of these people who say ijma' is the ijma' of the Sahaba, they will negate ijma' just by the saying of a tabi'i. How they see that, Allahu A'lam. Whether they say this tabi'i wouldn't have said it from his head unless he has knowledge from a sahabi or something. Yeah? Shafi'i in Risala, yes, he mentions the ijma' of the Sahaba
explicitly.
But when you talk, when he gives example, he will, like here, he say, I don't call ijma' except something that you will find no scholar. He didn't say you will find no Sahabi or something. You understand?
But then you've got other eminent imams, sheikhs,
like
Imam al-Shawkani.
Yeah, saying ijma'.
In Zirshad,
no, actually Shawkani, when he in Irshad al-Fuhul,
yeah,
he speaks about ijma', and he says, he always say ijma' according to those who take it. And then he says those people who have claimed ijma', like there is flaws in their statements. You understand? You can't take from Irshad al-Fuhul, and this is one.
In their statements as individuals, or as an ijma'. He says as an ijma' there is no error.
No, he says when he talks about ijma', he doesn't talk about ijma' as the way Ibn Hazm talk about ijma', the way Ibn Taymiyyah talks about ijma', the way Nawawi talks about ijma'. these people talk about ijma' like being, it's binding. You understand? And you have to Ibn Hajar say ijma' for those who accept ijma'. Look, the ijma' for those who accept ijma'. So for him, there are people who don't accept ijma'. Don't forget that Shawkani came from a Shia background, and the Shia deny ijma'. So he is familiar with this. And because of course he doesn't consider all the Shia to be kafir, not the Shia that he knew or he was with, they are definitely, you can't consider them to be a kafir. Just different opinions. Definitely we believe that different opinions which we believe to be right, like difference and who is right, like Abu Bakr or Ali, most right for the Khilafah, stuff like this. But this doesn't make them kafir or even mubtadi'. However, when he speaks about ijma' as well, he says one thing, what I remember from Shawkani saying, he say the people who take ijma' take it as strong, even stronger from Quran. If someone comes and contradicts the Quran with ta'wil or something, we say we don't make takfir on him. If someone contradicts the ijma' knowingly, after he knows that this is ijma', we make takfir on him. This is what they do, what people do. And he say, how can it be when they have agreed that if there is an ayah which is mujmal, like an ayah which is what you define is like it's mujmala, what we call mujmal, any word mujmal, it's like general statement in Quran, that this ayah, if someone contradicted, we don't make ijma' takfir on him. Now we are making takfir on someone who contradicts ijma' even though the ijma' came with ayah which is a mujmal. You understand? That's what Shawkani says. So you have many people who have claimed ijma'.
Imam Razi as well.
To the point where if you tell me, mention someone of what we call Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah who said there is no ijma', probably I will not be able to give you, except I say Ahmad ibn Hanbal. But then his followers will disagree. Well, his statement is clear that he doesn't take ijma'.
But the rest of them will all take it in some form or shape, whether
they will say this is what he meant, this is not what, you understand? Well, if someone says the Quran, this is not what Allah meant, it's fine if he says Ahmad ibn Hanbal, this is not what he meant.
Well, can I just quote some evidences that are quoted? I mean, if we if we just stick with the, I know that you touched upon it a little while ago, but I'll mention on the evidence for Ijma' al-Ummah, first of all. So the evidence that I have...
The Ijma' of the Ummah or the Sahaba?
Of the Ummah, first of all. I mean, what I have from a statement, if we go to Imam Razi, I believe he mentioned in his book, Al-Mahsul, he mentioned that the Ijma' of the Ummah is an evidence. So that's his statement. Now, the kind of evidence that they use, the evidence that they bring forth are as follows. In the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, "We have made you the best nation so that you can bear testimony against mankind, or for mankind, or against mankind."
Yeah.
They use other evidences, as is mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 115.
The ayah that Shafi'i used.
Yep, and I'll just quote it just for the sake of the recording. "And whosoever contradicts and opposes the messenger after the right path and has been shown clearly to him, and follows other than the believer's way, we shall keep him in a path he has chosen and burn him in hellfire. What an evil destination." Okay. Now, these are some of the evidences that you use from Quran.
So you can discuss all the evidence, but
well, let me just quote some more hadith.
Okay.
Just to kind of add on how they
don't say so many. Case. So
there's only 3-4 statements here. So the hadith which they bring forward is, "My ummah will never disagree or agree on dalala, which you mentioned earlier on. Whatever Muslims see good, it is good for Allah. They also say that the hadith is, my ummah will be divided into 73 groups or sects,
Yes.
all in hellfire but one. He was asked, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, O Messenger of Allah, which group is it? He said, the Jama'ah. So they say that as individuals, absolutely you'll make a mistake, but if you are an ummah, a group of people, then it makes it almost tawatur, and you cannot make an error, or you can't make a sin on that.
Okay. Any more evidence?
I mean, that should be enough to build up their case.
كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. This is the evidence that Razi brought. We definitely are the best ummah that has been brought forth to people. We enjoin the good and we forbid the evil. Where is, I mean, anyone can come and say, I tell you what is haram, what is your proof for alcohol being haram? You say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Now, I'm sorry, but I can see in قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ that alcohol is haram. I just see that. The ummah being the best ummah, we enjoy the good and we forbid the evil, definitely, we do that. There is nothing to say that we can't or we will not agree on something, whether intentionally or unintentionally, by mistake, on something which is wrong. I can't see that in this ayah. You need a clearer ayah, a clear something. This ayah is clear that we have to enjoy the good and forbid the evil. I mean, you don't just come and say any ayah and think that people will just follow what you are saying, unless you explain how did you come to a conclusion from this ayah that ijma' is right. And I am listening, even though I know the argument, but you don't argue, you don't answer any argument. You understand? The other thing is, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقَ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. Can you just read the ayah in English?
Which one?
The second ayah, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقَ الرَّسُولَ, Surah An-Nisa.
Okay, right.
For me to translate it.
Okay, it says,
and whoever opposes
and
the Prophet,
whosoever contradicts and opposes the messenger,
من بعد ما تبين له الهدى ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين, and he follow other than the path of the believers. That is opposing the Prophet and follow. Of course, if you oppose the Prophet, you have gone out of the path of the believers. I mean, it's not only contradicting the path of the believers, and the path of the believers is Islam. The path of believers is not alcohol being haram, or the path of believers being you have to do wudu from eating the meat of camel, or this is not. The path of the believers is Islam. So if you oppose the Prophet first, and which will lead you to going away from the path of the believers, then definitely you are out of Islam. This ayah is clear, that, and you can see the kind of punishment that Allah is threatening this person. This ayah, if you look at it, can't be applied in the time of the Sahaba. It can't be applied in the time of the Prophet. It can't be applied. This ayah was revealed in the time of the Prophet, but it can't be applied in the time of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Similar thing with the first ayah. You see, if the Sahaba, let's say all of the Sahaba are 1,000. Well, there are so many, and just an example. There are 1,000. 999 of them agree on something. Does it make it haqq? They will say no. Until the 1,000th person join. So if the 1,000th person doesn't join, if he have a different opinion, they will say here we have majority against one, but still it's not ijma'. They don't call it ijma', and therefore if you contradict it, you are not doing something like horrible or something. So the ijma' wouldn't have happened until the last Sahabi have died. So you are telling me that the ayah that was revealed in the time of the Prophet didn't become religion until the last Sahabi have died. Because as long as a Sahabi is alive, he can come anytime and say, I've changed my mind. I don't agree with the other Sahaba, and then there is no Ijma of Sahaba here. I mean, if I went through Ijma, I would have brought all these dalils from the beginning, but... and since the Sahaba, like generation doesn't... We don't have like generation dying and then another generation coming up. I mean, the generation they are... Before the first generation dies, we have the second generation already. We have Tabi'in. We have Tabi'in who were older than the Sahaba and died actually before the Sahaba. Some Tabi'in who never met the Prophet. And some Tabi'in lived with the Sahaba. So before one generation is extant, there is another generation. So we have to observe that there will be never Ijma'. We will have to wait for because when the Sahaba have made their decision, there was other mujtahideen in their time with them. Some of these mujtahideen, tabi'in, were more knowledgeable than many Sahaba. Nobody can disagree, like the fact that Hassan Basri, Zuhri, they gathered so much knowledge that you can't compare them to some Sahaba who met the Prophet once or twice and heard from the Prophet one hadith or two hadith.
Now you mentioned Zuhri, Azari, you've got Hassan al-Basri, for example. Did they themselves ever discuss
Well,
Ijma'?
that is the thing. Now, I say it, now, when you say, I can't tell you anyone who said the Ijma', if you tell me someone who said the Ijma' is batil, I told you I can't tell you anyone except for Ahmad ibn Hanbal.
But did they explicitly say that it's a source of law?
But tell me anyone from the Sahaba or Tabi'in who says that Ijma' is a source of law. I mean, this is for you to prove when you say this is Ijma'.
Well, Imam Abu Hanifa was technically,
but he never mentioned it, yeah?
But he never narrated a hadith from the Sahabi he was in contact with.
Shafi'i himself, Abu Hanifa himself, you don't find that he used Ijma' himself in his... Don't tell me what his followers do, what his followers assume, what his... Himself, tell me where he said Ijma' is a source of religion. Tell me, find me Malik used to do Ijma' of people of Medina, and he take it as priority. I mean, he give it priority for Hadith Ahad.
But that was based upon evidence, though.
Like?
That there is no... I think the English word is filth, but there is no... Just the khabath. Medina throw the khabath, way they... Talking about praising the people of Medina. So that's based upon some evidence.
Yeah, that is...
is that an incorrect interpretation of the hadith?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, definitely Medina reject its khabath. Don't forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says as well, we have to understand hadith without rejecting the Quran. I mean, whatever the Prophet says is true. But what about وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ مَرَضُوا عَلَى النِّفَاقِ وَمِمَّنْ حَوْلَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مُنَافِقُونَ. Around you, amongst the Bedouins, are hypocrites. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ, and from the people of Medina, they are very hard on hypocrisy. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, where the munafiqeen were living. So,
but obviously, Imam Malik was not a stupid person. He was a very intelligent person.
He was.
So he would be saying the consensus of Medina.
Yeah.
Obviously, he would know those who follow the Deen.
Well,
you're not going to take from the Munafiq or the Yahud.
If his proof is that the Medina throw out its dirt, then we tell him that Medina definitely throw its dirt. This is what the Prophet said. But you have to understand it with the ayah. So now we have telling you that in Medina, at some points, there is dirt. You understand? I mean, the bodies of these dirty hypocrites are still buried in Medina, and the Prophet have said, so to understand the hadith, he said that the Medina, when the Dajjal comes, the Medina will shake 3 times and all dirt will come out. So this is how we have to understand it.
So you're saying is that the hadith that Imam Malik quotes is in reference to what you've just said, that
well, the Prophet definitely, the Prophet said this. One man came and gave him bay'ah, and this man got sick because he couldn't bear staying in Medina. He's a Bedouin, he can stay in cities, and he asked the Prophet for permission to go out to give him back his bay'ah once, twice, 3 times, and he went out, and the Prophet said the Medina throw its dirt the way the iron, the what you call the al-kir, you know, the iron, the goldsmith, when the way he cleans the iron when you are cooking it. So that hadith was used there, and yes, the Medina throw its dirt, but the final throwing of the dirt, that will be the day before the day of judgment, when every dirt will go out of Medina. That's all. I mean, we have seen it all the time, and we still see it there.
But you're saying that
some of the dirtiest people in the world have their palaces there, and they go to haram. Don't you see that?
Of course.
Some people who are engaged in killing Muslims,
absolutely,
are there. So we have to understand the hadith. The hadith of the Prophet is true all the time. So we have to understand it in the light of the hiss, what's going on, in the light of the Quran. We don't say the ayah is the ayah as well. We have to take it as well, and we take it from that.
Okay, so if we narrow the discussion specifically now to Ijma' Sahaba.
Yeah, there is some ayat, actually, some hadith that you mentioned that we have never had the chance to talk about them. We mentioned the ayat.
Okay, the hadith about the ones that I just mentioned. What about the 73 sects?
Yeah, the hadith of the 73 sects. The hadith of the 73 sects, the hadith of Auf bin Malik, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, Abi Huraira, the hadith. This hadith has many different narrations.
All sound chains?
No one of these narrations has sound chain. You have the chain where there is Abdullah bin Luhay, Abdullah bin Azhar bin Abdullah al-Hawzani, the hadith of Muawiyah. You have the hadith who is weak. You have the hadith of Abu Huraira, Muhammad bin Amr bin Alqamah bin Waqqas is weak. So all the narrations, they have defection, one by one. The only way to make this hadith sahih is by combining them together, meaning the way some people do,
taking an average kind of
hadith da'if plus da'if plus da'if equal to sahih. Even if you do it this way, then you will have the issue. What they do here, they will say, okay, this hadith and this hadith and this hadith have mentioned, all of them, they have mentioned that the ummah will be divided into 73 or 72 groups. The last phrase, where the Prophet has been asked, who are they? Some will say in one hadith, the one who are in the same thing of what I am in with my Sahaba. Some will say the Jama'ah. One hadith will say the Sawad al-A'zam, the majority. So they say this because the fact that the Ummah will be divided into 73 groups is come from many different narrations, so one will strengthen the other. But the last phrase, it won't be strengthened, because this contradict this.
Okay.
Some people might try to say, oh, the Jama'ah means what the Sahaba what the Prophet has been on with the Sahaba. And we'll say, and that is the Sawad al-A'zam, that is the majority, even though the Prophet says, بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا, the Islam started as stranger, and it will become a stranger. Now this hadith here, I don't take it to be sahih. This hadith is weak. The ummah will be divided because of many hadith, because the hadith that the Prophet said that we will follow the ways of the people before us, and the people before us have divided. However, this hadith is weak, and I take hadith in such way that I will take hadith sahih only. I don't take hadith weak plus weak plus weak, it's called 3 week. You understand? 3 week hadith, that's all.
So you don't even take the formula by adding all the weak narrations and putting them together. That for you doesn't make it sahih.
Doesn't make it sahih.
Is that you alone, or are there other scholars, classical or contemporary, that agree with that?
If you look about the majority of at the beginning, you will see that many people have misunderstood. I mean, this rule, for example, about hadith, let's say the rule about hadith mursal being strengthened by another hadith. Shafi'i, this is what he says. He say a hadith mursal will be strengthened by a hadith sahih. Hadith which is mursal from a big tabi'i, old tabi'i, not for the junior one, the senior ones, the one who met with the oldest sahaba. He say this hadith, if it has sound chain, and it comes from another chain, totally sound, fully sound, sahih, then this hadith mursal will become sahih. This led to confusion. That, for example, Razi in Kitab al-Mahsul, he says Shafi'i meant here that hadith weak will strengthen the hadith mursal. I just give you an example. I'm not going to do hadith.
Yeah, of course.
Now, Ibn Hajar, in one of his opinions, when looking at what Shafi'i has said, at one point, he said maybe Shafi'i means weak hadith. He doesn't mean sound hadith. Will strengthen this mursal hadith, which is weak by itself. Nawawi, in his books, many books, looks like he go with the same opinion. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, Ibn Hajar in other books, Abu Amr ibn Salah, Nawawi in a different quote when he was answering to the Ahnaf, because the Ahnaf put this question. It doesn't make sense. Hadith sahih is sahih by itself. Why do you need hadith mursal to make hadith mursal sahih with the Nawawi? Now, when he was challenged this way, when the people, the Ahnaf, challenged Shafi'i, like he is saying, he looked at it again and he understood what Shafi'i have said, what exactly Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali have said, what Abu Amr ibn Salah have said. They said Shafi'i meant here, if you have hadith sahih, and this hadith come from another narration which is mursal, that hadith sahih will make the mursal sahih as well. Now we know that this mursal here, this tabi'i, have taken it from somewhere. Now it's not a question of you agree with Shafi'i or not. I disagree. But what Shafi'i meant here, because the majority of the muhaddithin, especially today, I mean, take the biggest muhaddithin, those who are considered the biggest muhaddithin today, they will take hadith mursal with hadith da'if and they make it hasan. And if you ask them, they will quote this.
Could you quote names of the biggest muhaddith? Are you talking about Albani?
Well, Albani is considered by people one of the biggest. Ahmed Shakir, I had in my mind Ahmed Shakir, Wadi'i, Al-Ghimari from Morocco, Badi' Sindi and his brother from Pakistan. They do this. They will take hadith mursal, hadith ضعيف, and they will refer to Nawawi, and Nawawi has taken it from Shafi'i. But then Nawawi, if you look at his books, and one of his latest books, he understood what he didn't understand before. He said, if someone says, why Shafi'i will make hadith weak based on hadith sahih, since you have the hadith sahih? He said, now that you have two hadith sahih, in case you have the hadith that contradict them, 2 against 1, better than 1 against 1, because you will not find a way to make what we call tarjih. You understand the argument? So this is one of the things that people have misunderstood. And I don't say that all of them have misunderstood it, because they are reading books, but when I see the way they make hadith sahih and hasan, this is what I see them doing. You understand? This is just an example. How did we come up with the hadith hasan?
You were talking about the hadith regarding the 73 sects. And
you
mentioned
the hadith. I said that when I take hadith sahih. You understand? Because there is many things. When you try to make a hadith sahih together, there are many things that will come. You will have to say why. I mean, there is things that you have to make sure about the isnad. This hadith came from isnad which is hasan. We have to make sure that this person is just have, for those who take it like ضعيف plus ضعيف equal to sahih or hasan, this person is just having problem with his memory. We have hadith with person, if it's broken in the middle, then it's very big problem. If it's broken in the middle, then maybe the person who is missing is a liar. You don't know where the hadith came from. You understand? If it's mu'dal, that's worse. The more ilal you have in the hadith, that is even a bigger problem. And you will find that people who make hadith hasan and sahih based on many narrations all week, they disregard these rules when they like, most of the time. You understand? No, but let's say for a moment that this hadith is sahih. Let's say if this hadith was sahih, and the Prophet said you have to keep with the jama'ah. When the people have divided, keep with the jama'ah. How do you understand the hadith of the Prophet? If you think this is the hadith of the Prophet, we understand hadith Prophet by going to another hadith of the Prophet. Nobody can explain the saying of the Prophet except the Prophet. Now Hudayfa used to ask the Prophet about things, about bad things, until he told him that there will be a time where there will be callers at the gates of hellfire. Whoever answered them, they will throw him in hellfire. The Prophet is saying that the Ummah will be divided. There will be groups, many groups, who speaks about our language. Muslims don't have a language except Quran and Sunnah. They speak our tongue. What is our tongue? Is it Arabic? Islam is not Arab. Quran is Arabic, but Islam is not Arabic. So they are from amongst us. They speak about language, our language. So they are from people who claim to be Muslim. And whoever will answer them, they will throw him in hellfire. These people, the Prophet, when he said this, Hudayfa asked him, what should I do if that time, I reach that time? He said, stay with the Jama'at al-Muslimin and their leader. So this is the Jama'ah. No matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, it doesn't say follow the majority. He said, stay with the Jama'ah of the Muslimin and their Imam, the Khalifa.
The Khalifa.
So that is the Jama'ah that we have to stick to.
Okay.
And he said, well, what if there is no Jama'ah and there is no Imam? And we know the Jama'ah and the Imam is an obligation. This is the Prophet say, keep all the groups and stay with the Jama'ah. When Hudayfa said, What if there is no Jama'ah and Imam, which is an obligation? He didn't say, oh, my Ummah will never gather on something wrong. He agreed that Ummah might gather on something which is wrong, not having Khalifa, which is wrong. So he said, keep away from all the groups. So even if you stick to a trunk of tree, so he is telling him that you are the Jama'ah, you are the person, the only person alone, keep away from this Jama'ah. He is saying that Ummah might, you are telling me the Ummah might never agree on something which is wrong. The Prophet said it was possible. This is the hadith that you take from Bukhari, not the hadith that from Muhammad bin Amr, bin Alqamah bin Waqqas, and bin Nu'aym bin Hammad, and so and so.
So what about, going upon your assumption, what about if the Khalif was corrupt, as many have been?
Yes,
historically.
Exactly. That's what we have to stick with him until we see kufr bawah. Khalifa,
but this
who is a Muslim.
It could be, I mean, what about in the people of the time of Yazid?
Yeah, what have they done?
There was clearly a lot of corruption that time.
A lot of corruption, but it's not kufr. We have not seen Yazid doing any kufr. Did he make halal what Allah has made haram? Did he make haram what Allah has made halal? Did he say the hukm of Allah, anything that Allah say something this is right and he says this is wrong?
Well, how long did the Islamic rule go on for?
The Islamic
do you ascribe to the 1924 was the last Khilafah?
I don't exactly know history. I don't, and this history, when you study history, you have to study it with true isnad. What we know from Bani Uthman, if they are from Quraysh, which they are not. You see, the people that we have to follow are the people that Allah ordered us. As a Muslim, I don't have to do anything except what Allah ordered me to do. As a Muslim, I can do whatever I like, except what Allah has forbidden me from doing. Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَقَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ مَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِلَّا مَا اضْطُرِرْتُمْ إِلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah has created you and whatever you do. You can't say what I am doing is wrong. Whatever I do. If you want to say that's wrong, you have to prove it from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ. It has been explained to you, He has explained to you in details what is forbidden for you. إِلَّا مَا اضْطُرِرْتُمْ. Except in time of necessity. In time of necessity, haram will become halal. However, so anything, I am allowed to do anything, what I want. Disobey anybody. I don't have to obey anybody, except with proof. Who Allah ordered me to obey? يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Prophet. Obedience, complete obedience to Allah. When Allah says do this, you have to do it with no questioning. When Allah says don't do this, you don't do it without questioning. Why? Same thing. If the Prophet says do this, we don't question him. Why? Because he doesn't speak for himself. Whatever he says is wahyun yuha. He is wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he says don't do this, you don't do it. وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. He didn't say obey the أولي الأمر. وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. This is obedience which is restricted.
There's no ta'ah to them.
Yeah. It is ta'ah. It is not ta'ah to the Prophet as well. It is ta'ah of the Prophet because of ta'ah of Allah. But you understand? Now, ta'ah of the Prophet. Why we obey the Prophet? We obey the Prophet because Allah ordered us to obey him. So it is ta'ah of the Prophet. However, the ta'ah of the Prophet is not without questioning. He say do something, we don't say why. He's saying is an itself proof. It's dalil. When the Khalifa says something, or Uli al-Amr, let's say Uli al-Amr, because this is what the ayah say, Uli al-Amr, wa Uli al-Amri minkum. when Ulil Amr say something, we have to say, why? Does Allah want me to do that? Did the Prophet order this? So it is, their ta'ah is restricted. But who are these Ulil Amr? Yeah? Who explains the Quran? The Quran explains Quran. And the Sunnah explains the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ulil Amr. The people, Amr is order, authority. So, who is the people who have the authority? It's still not clear. Then we take the hadith which is from Abu Huraira al-Bukhari. It is the hadith of Ulayh ibn Sulaiman anyway, but this hadith that a man came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, mat as-sa'a? When is the time, the hour? The Prophet didn't answer him till the end. And then he said, where is the man who asked about the hour? He said, here I am. He said, إِذَا ضَيَّعَتِ الْأَمَانَ فَانْتَظِرِ السَّاعَةِ. If the trust is lost, wait for the hour. He said, وَكَيْفَ إِضَاعَتُهَا? How it is to be lost? He said, إِذَا وُسِّدَ الْأَمْرِ. Look, أولي الأمر. إِذَا وُسِّدَ الْأَمْرُ إِلَى غَيْرِ أَهْلِهِ. If the matter, if the authority is given to those who don't deserve it. Okay, still what is the authority? The hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-As. إِنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرَ فِي قُرَيْشِ. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. إِنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرَ فِي قُرَيْشِ. This matter will remain in Quraysh. The Khilafah in Quraysh. Al-A'immatu bin Quraysh. So one hadith explains another. So the only person that we have to obey after obeying Allah and the Prophet is the Khalifa. And those he appoints. Because if he appoints someone and tell you obey this person, you are obeying him. By obeying him, you are obeying the Prophet. من أطاعني فقد من أطاع أميري فقد
Whether they're from Quraysh or not. Whether they're from Quraysh or not.
They have to. No, the Khalifa must be from Quraysh.
So you're saying that according to you, any Khalif
must be from Quraysh. The hadith say, إن الأمر في قريش. The matter will remain with Quraysh. You understand? Now, if Quraysh appoints not the main leader, when Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and Muawiyah and Yazid and Marwan and Abdul Malik and Abdul Aziz and Umar bin Abdul Aziz and Al Walid and Hisham, all these people who are from Quraysh, when they appoint someone like they appoint Abu Huraira or Ibn Abbas in Mecca or Abu Huraira in Bahrain, or when they appoint these people, even Ibn Abbas is Qurayshi, so he is eligible for Khilafah, but Abu Huraira, for example, is not.
So the Abbasi,
they are
Khulafa, they're all Qurayshi from the Qurayshi line.
Yes, they are the children of Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, who is Qurashi, and he was the eligible for Khilafah. Anyone who is Qurashi, he is eligible for Khilafah. And that is, so we have to obey these people. So the Khalifa must be from Quraysh. And to stick with the Khalifa at the time of when the Ummah is dividing, that is being with the Jama'ah. Doesn't matter. When the Arabs, you see, Medina was still minority. When the Prophet died, the people of Medina and Mecca and Ta'if, according to the history, the hadiths, that when the Prophet died, all the Arabs, Bani Hanifa, Bani Tamim, all they apostated. Would they say all it remained with Abu Bakr is Mecca and Medina and Ta'if? No, this is minority. And when we say apostated, they call them apostated actually, astaghfirullah. Some of them apostated completely from the religion, some of them had ta'wil. They said we don't have to pay zakat for Abu Bakr. Anyway, they went out of the ta'ah. They don't follow the Khalifa. They don't agree with the Khalifa. They wanted their own leader. Abu Bakr was right in fighting them, to bring them back to the mainstream Jama'at al-Muslimin. It's not that, he was the main Jama'ah. Even he was alone, even if everybody broke out, by having one person electing him as a Khalifa. He will be the person who is eligible and who should be followed.
So then let me ask you a quick question. Muawiyah, Qurayshi.
Yes.
Sayyidina Ali, Qurayshi.
Definitely.
So who was right and who was wrong in their conflict?
Well, the Prophet hadith of Ammar bin Yasir is clear that the Prophet said تقتلك الفئة الباغية, the fi'ah which is wrong, on the wrong, will kill you. And he was killed by the people who were following Muawiyah. Muawiyah has his own ijtihad. We always, not for the Sahaba only, with every Muslim, when we disagree with Muslims, we always try to think good about them. We think that Muawiyah was doing what he thinks is right, and he was following what he thinks is best for the Ummah and probably for himself.
But the proponents of Ijma Sahaba, they say that the reason why we use Ijma Sahaba is for examples like this. When you had a clear split between the Sahabi, some Sahabi was saying, actually no, Ali's right, some were saying Muawiyah was right. Now we look back in history, we say Ali was absolutely right.
Why? Where is the Ijma' here? There is one Ijma' you take from this hadith. There is one Ijma'.
It was an ijtihad of Muawiyah.
There is, I say this, of course Muawiyah had his own ijtihad. Ali ibn Abi Talib was right.
There a hadith in Bukhari that says he'll be calling, that one group will be calling for the hellfire.
Yes. Yes.
So how can that be an ijtihad if he's calling for the hellfire?
Well, ijtihad doesn't mean if someone tells you anything which is haram, anyone who calls you to haram, to do haram, he's calling you to hellfire. Anyone who tells you do something which is haram from the religion, he is calling you to hellfire. Doesn't mean necessarily that he is going to hellfire or you will go to hellfire. He is doing his own ijtihad. When we say drinking of alcohol is fusuq, backbiting of Muslims is fusuq, and leads to hellfire, does it mean that everybody who drinks alcohol is a fasiq? Well, alcohol is a bit stronger. There was people of Kufa who used to drink alcohol because they believe that alcohol is only one form which is made out of dates and grapes. But there are very big names, people who we take hadith from and we trust them completely. No need to mention names. We just have to go to books like history. Go to the book of Sir Alam al-Nubala, Dhahabi, and you will see some people from the Kufa, big muhaddithin. Bukhari and Muslim narrates from them, and they are unanimously trustworthy. They used to drink alcohol until you can see on their faces, this is the people will see them that they are not in their normal, and they believe that this is not alcohol. Alcohol is what is made of dates and grapes.
So they weren't doing it as much
now,
haram.
That is their ijtihad.
We'll understand the discussion.
Now, if someone comes and say, when they tell you this is halal, and someone, we will one person make sure that you don't do what they are doing. What they are doing leads to hellfire. This is what you tell people. Doesn't mean that they are going to hellfire. If we think that they were trustworthy people, we will take their hadith, and we think that if they knew it is haram, they will stop it. So Muawiyah is trustworthy, and the people who were fighting in his side, they were trustworthy people, and you can see that many of the people who were fighting with him when Ammar bin Yasir was killed, many people switched sides. They came with Ali ibn Abi Talib, and those who remained, still you can think that they still have, because they say there is that they came to this, they were told, but that someone who brings someone to fight, he is the one who caused his death. So they say that Ali ibn Abi Talib killed Ammar because he caused his death. If he let him stay home, he wouldn't have died. So that is still ta'wil. And we will accept the ta'wil of people as long as we think that this person is sincere, or there is a shubha that this person is sincere, and we have that with Muawiyah. If you look at Muawiyah history, he was just a Muslim. He was a Muslim, a Sahabi, and by that position of Sahabi is something that will take a lot of things. I mean, a Sahabi, a person being a Muslim and being a Sahabi, meaning the Prophet have agreed to his company. And we have no proof that the Prophet has rejected Muawiyah or anything. He was his brother-in-law. He was his companion. That position of companion is greater than many things he could have done himself. You see, when we see,
yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's can't make mistakes, or he wouldn't conspire.
No, we don't say that he can't make mistakes.
Or he couldn't
but
sin openly.
we think that we are not supposed to. It is forbidden for us. First, we have to think good about him as much as possible, as long as there is a way to think good about him. And I think there is a case here that the man was a person who liked the religion. You can read his history, who from his action he loved Allah and his Prophet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But as in many, but he's also known to be someone who introduced a lot of bid'ah into the religion. I mean, like hereditary rule, for example.
What?
Like having your son in place of the next Khalif. It was something which was never done by the rightfully guided Khalifs, Umar, Abu Bakr, Ali, Uthman.
Yeah, but you shouldn't. When we talk as a normal Muslim, about a normal Muslim, we don't say we try to keep away. We say what they do. Probably is a bid'ah, but we don't.
Yeah, but when
don't forget that the Prophet have said. This is the Prophet have said. La tasubbu ashabi. Don't insult my companion.
Okay.
So we have to keep away from anything that is like insulting to the Sahaba.
But did he ever fight with the Prophet in any of the battles?
Yes, he was the companion of the Prophet. He was with him. Yes, and he was actually trustworthy to the Prophet. The Prophet trusted him with writing, and that is enough. I mean, a person keeping company to the Prophet, that is enough to make him a good person. That is better than what he has done in his life. Just having company to the Prophet. I mean, this is the religion that we believe in. Allah has created this world. And He has chosen some people. He has chosen some people to be His prophets. Can you tell me what these people, before Allah has chosen them, what have they done to deserve this position? Before Allah created them and He decided to make them as prophets, the highest rank possible, what have they done? It's something that Allah wanted to give these people, just like that. And we have no objection. We like it and we accept it. Same thing, He has chosen some people to be the companions of the Prophet. Huh? Without doing nothing, we still have to accept that.
So Abu Bakr's son, for example, was also the companion of the Prophet at times.
Yes.
But he was also accused as being one of the murderers of Sayyid Uthman.
Look, what we know from the hadith, we don't take history. When we take history, we don't take anything that we read in the books.
So then where else are you supposed to get it from?
No, it's not. We have to take everything we take it with isnad sahih, with sound chain.
Okay.
Yeah. There is a story that says, you don't go to Awasim from Qawasim, Abu Bakr al-Arabi or the book of...
But at best, he said that he was there, but he forgot the two people.
No.
He didn't say that he was the murderer.
This is what happens. People disagreed with Uthman in terms of some things that he used to do that they didn't like. You understand? some people, they say like, when you see Umar ibn Khattab, once you have seen Umar ibn Khattab, you will not like anybody. You understand? So definitely nobody will compare Uthman to Umar. I mean, Uthman was a great person, but you will not compare him to Umar. Some people, because they have seen Umar, they can't just live with it. Like, you understand? We have to have someone like Umar. So they disagreed with Uthman, and they want to remove them. This is a Sahabi, this is a Sahabi. We are not supposed to insult the Sahaba or talk about them bad. Even the Sahaba, they are not supposed to talk about each other or to hate each other or to fight each other. But whatever they have done, it's not our business. Most of these people, most of them, many of these people are people that Allah have declared in His book that radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. This is not for about the general Muslims like Surah Al-Fajr, those who do good deeds. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. Many companions were there. So if Allah have been pleased with them, this is how Allah tests us, whether we accept His judgment or not. And we have to accept His judgment. He has been pleased with some people. It's not up to us. Oh, I have been doing this and this. I do this and this and this. And look, this person, what he has done, and whatever now I'm going to do in my life will not equal even to a handful of what he has done. You understand? And look what he has done, what he has done. No, we don't do that. You have to accept what Allah hukum. This is Islam.
Okay, but Allah's hukum is not to slander or not to backbite, and not to and to hide the mistakes of your brothers. But when we do in the Rijal, for example, you go and you find out how good or bad or how trustworthy or their memory or liars.
The son of Abu Bakr, even if you take it from the history, this is what it says. It says he went to Uthman and he took him from the beard and he pulled him from his beard and he said, my nephew, your father used to honor this beard. So his hand shaked and he left. He didn't kill Uthman. This is the story that if you want to take it. Still, he has done well. It was not right to take the Uthman beard, a man that Allah has honored. But still,
have there been any hadith which have been narrated by Abu Bakr's son?
Abu Bakr's children?
This son in particular?
Yes, not really. Not that. It's not like directly from the Prophet. You see, the children of Abu Bakr, Abdul Rahman and Muhammad, both died young, like, you understand. So there is no really hadith, nothing directly from the Prophet anyway. Nothing directly from the Prophet. So we don't have hadith directly from the Prophet.
So it's no hadith?
No, there is no hadith directly from the Prophet. And as I said, when we talk about ilm al-rijal, yes, we have to keep away from the hadith of the fusaq. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِن جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَأٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. A man who has been proven to be the Sahabi of the Prophet, we can never call him fasiq. And there isn't amongst the Sahaba who can be called a fasiq. There is no one. Any one of them who has done something. Someone who has drank alcohol. Someone who sold alcohol. All of them, they thought what they were doing was right. And that includes Muawiyah when he was fighting Ali ibn Abi Talib. We never went inside his heart why he was fighting. He was fighting, according to him, to get vengeance He was fighting the people. He was not fighting Ali bin Abi Talib. He was fighting the people who have been behind Ali bin Abi Talib, who Ali bin Abi Talib was protecting, because not really protecting, he was doing something to help them, to for the religion, for the sake of religion, because you understand. So he had his, Ali bin Abi Talib was doing the right thing. It wasn't time to get vengeance from people that probably by fighting them will create chaos or whatever the Ali bin Abi Talib was saying. It's clear from the hadith of the Prophet that Ali bin Abi Talib will be in the fiqh's on the right path, and Muawiyah was doing what he thought was right.
Can I bring it back to
Ijma.
the early hadith about the 73 sects, and
Okay.
then I want to move on from there for
Okay.
a few more points. Now, you said that all of them are da'if.
Yes. The hadith of the 73.
Exactly. Now, a lot of the muhaddithin, what they do is they group them together
Yes.
and then they average it out and they call it sahih.
Yes.
Okay. But you also mentioned that they don't, but the ending of the hadith, is it just this hadith or any hadith?
No. Well, you see this hadith, if you look at the isnad, just apparently, then we have the best isnad is the hadith of Nu'aym bin Hammad. Nu'aym bin Hammad is someone who makes big mistakes, despite being one of the considered to be trustworthy. He is Sheikh of Bukhari, but everybody agrees that he makes mistakes.
Memory or
memory.
Okay.
Yahya ibn Ma'in, one of the biggest critics of hadith, saw him in Egypt. He was narrating. Abdullah ibn Mubarak told me. Ibn Ma'in said, Abdullah ibn Mubarak never told you any for this hadith that you are narrating. He said, how do you say that? So he was angry. And Nu'aym bin Hammad is well known. So even the student of Nu'aym bin Hammad were angry. So when Yahya ibn Ma'in insisted, he went inside the house, brought his books. When he looked at them, said, yeah, that's true. Yahya, you are right. This hadith, it's not from Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Now, Yahya ibn Ma'in is, if you take the isnad of all the hadith that have been mentioned, Yahya ibn Ma'in isnad is, you can consider it to be the best, because Yahya ibn Ma'in himself is thiqa. He makes mistakes when he narrates from himself, from his head. And he narrated this hadith, which is considered to be batil, invalid, by Yahya ibn Ma'in, and he is right when he says this hadith is invalid. This hadith says that the ummah will be divided into 73 groups. The worst of these groups, that this one doesn't say which one you have to stick to or something. He say the worst of these groups is the group that does qiyas.
Okay.
And make halal haram and haram halal.
Okay.
This is
We'll leave that for next week's discussion.
okay.
Sorry, I have coming off a sore throat, but there's a few more points.
Yes.
Just a point, just two more points, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap up. But
Inshallah.
but the point about the compilation of Quran,
Yeah.
it's taken as, because the evidence is here that I quoted.
So you are going now from Ijma to compilation of Quran.
I know, but what I'm saying is that the people who are proponents of Ijma Sahaba,
Okay.
they say that Allah has, in many ayat, in Surah Al-Fatih, Surah Al-Tawbah,
Okay.
Surah Al-Hashr, he's praised them, in many hadith he's praised them. So he's saying it's only rational, it's only logical that the Sahabi, for the fact that they were trusted with such a noble duty,
Yeah.
as you said, as you've given just Muawiyah as a position of
Yeah.
respect,
Yeah.
but the whole of the Sahabi Ajma'in,
Yeah.
a respect that Allah has given them, and they will never ever disagree on a mistake.
Agree on mistake.
Or they would never agree on a mistake. They would never do an open sin
Yeah.
collectively.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the other evidence which you can quote, and I think we'll leave it at that, is the issue to do with when Umar bin Khattab when he after he was stabbed and before he passed, he elected 6
People.
of the people to run for the next Khalif.
Yes.
And they decided that this has to be done within 3 days and 2 nights.
Yeah.
And this is why it's binding for us, and this is ijma'. There isn't an evidence to suggest in Quran or in the Sunnah to suggest that 3 days and 2 nights it's not mentioned. So
The
well, this is
majority. Okay. Now this is the thing. Does ijma' abrogate ijma'? First, you mentioned the quality of the Sahaba, and that make them the most knowledgeable people. That's not true. The best person doesn't mean the most knowledgeable. If you mean by knowledge fear of Allah, that's true. Abu Bakr is the most fearful of Allah after the Prophet of this Ummah, and Umar and Uthman. Was he the most knowledgeable of this Ummah? I don't think so. Umar ibn Khattab, there is hadith from the Prophet that he has seen dream, that he has been given drink, so milk. He drank until he was filled up, and then to the point where he saw the milk coming out of his fingernails. That's how much he has taken knowledge, and the remaining he gave it to Umar. The remaining of his knowledge he gave it to Umar. And he said in a hadith that if there will be in this ummah muhaddith, someone who you get inspired, it will be Umar. Abu Bakr is better than Umar. Umar is more knowledgeable than Abu Bakr when it comes to understanding the religion. However, so being the best generation, it doesn't mean from the hadith itself that it's the most knowledgeable. We know that they are the most knowledgeable because of the many reasons. We know it. We don't say that Allah said it. You will be lying. No? Normally it will be like this. The people whom Allah have given wisdom and the time, and they left their people and came and followed the Prophet. So they are wise people. The language, the Quran speaks in their language. What will stop them? Intelligent people, what will stop them from understanding the Quran? Doesn't mean that they will get it always right. So that is one thing. The Prophet said to the Sahaba in Khutbah al-Hajj al-Wadah, in the Hajj, when he made this khutbah, he said, لِيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدُ الْغَائِبَ. Those who are present here, let them convey the message to those who are not present. All who are present in there are Sahaba. Those who are not present, many of them will be Tabi'een and so forth. And he said, because some of who have not been present here may understand it better. When you look at the Ijma', there is 2 issues to look. When we say the Ijma' is invalid, there's 2 issues to look. First, is Ijma' valid? Do you have a proof to say Ijma' is valid? Well, you don't have proof. I can show you from Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِهِمْ أَنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ يُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ. Is not enough for them that we have revealed to you the book being recited to them? Isn't it enough? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. Today I have completed your religion and perfected it.
So what about when some people say that if you don't accept Ijma', then in a way you don't accept Quran because they were the ones who compiled the Quran?
Well, I am coming to that.
Okay.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He has completed the religion. So what the Sahaba are going to say? Are they going to make Ijma' on the Quran and Sunnah, or something that just they will invent and make Ijma' on it? If you say they will invent something, that's mean something that is not in the religion, it's not completed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِهِمْ, isn't it enough for them that we have revealed the book to you, being recited to them? This is the ijma' that I have seen. I give you the ijma' of the Sheikh of the ijma', the Sheikh of the Tabari, Shafi'i. This is the ijma', the kind of ijma' that he says. And he is one, when you talk about ijma', mention Tabari. One of the main people that will be quoted. He says that Uthman ibn Affan with the Sahaba have agreed to condemn, to execute all the seven narrations, like the Prophet was begging, the hadith of Ibn Abbas in Quran, pleading with Jibreel that my ummah will not be able to read Quran in one narration. Not two, not three, until he made it 7. He said that Uthman with the ummah have agreed to cut the 6 other narrations. Tabari believes, may Allah forgive him, I'm not saying anything, this is his ijtihad. When I talk about this way, I'm not insulting him or something. But this is the ijma' that he believes. He believes that the ummah have agreed and finished the 6 narrations. Now we have only one narration, meaning the narration of Nafi' and Asim and Ibn Kathir and Abu Amr and Ibn Amr, all these narrations, the 7 narrations, he said this is one harf of the 7. And this ijma' is right according to him. The ummah have agreed after the Prophet to change something that the Prophet died and left. This is the kind of ijma'. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ لَا مُعَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. Allah make judgment, there is no alteration to His judgments. The people who accept ijma', they accept this kind of ijma' as well. However, this is the ayah in Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say that my salah, my prayer, and my sacrifice, and my life and my death is for Allah Rabb al-Alamin. لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت, and this is what have been ordered. وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. This is what Allah ordered every single Muslim to say. I am the first Muslim. If you go to some Mufassirin say this is for the Prophet to say I am the first Muslim. But even the Prophet was not the first Muslim, if you mean it that way. Because Nuh was Muslim. Nuh in Quran says وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. So there was Muslims before the Prophet. Ibrahim alayhi salam calls himself هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. All the Prophet were Muslims. So why Allah says this? What does it mean that Allah tells us in the Quran, every single of us to say I am the first Muslim? I don't follow ijma'. That's what it means. Means if I see and look and see everybody is doing something which I consider to be haram, and they have dalil from the Quran and Sunnah says this is haram, I will say that I am our first Muslim. If you look around and people, for example, are or have been for a long time doing something being divided, not electing Khalifa for 1 day, 3 days or whatever, then you say, I am awwal Muslimin, I am going to do it. We don't wait for someone to start. This is the religion that we have to. This is against ijma'. The other thing in ijma', after we have proven that there is no ijma', because you can't give me any dalil to say ijma' is source of religion. Now, even the person who says there is ijma', how can you prove this ijma'? How can you prove it? Ijma' is dhann, just assumption that maybe the ummah have agreed. And the Prophet didn't take the ijma'. The Prophet, when he came back from Hawazin, the battle of Hawazin from Hunayn, he has taken from these people their wives and children and their property as war booty. He waited for a few nights After a few nights they came back to him and asked him to give them back. They became Muslim. Now they want back everything. The Prophet said no. Either your wives and children or your property. They said our wives and children. But these wives and children are property that have been taken in the war. And it is the right of these people who fought for it. So he had to ask for permission. So he went to people. Everybody who have been in the battle, they are still not in Medina, they are still in the desert. There he can see them. And he said, oh people, he made a khutbah. He said, your brothers came, repented, became Muslim, and I have promised them to give them back their wives and children. So whoever amongst you want to give it away, to give away just like this, fi sabilillah, is good. If you want, you can give it away, and then when I get something, I will give you exchange. Like, I will give you compensate you for that. People say, this is what the narrator said. The people said, we agree, we give it, tayyabna, we give it for free. Then the Prophet says, this is if this is ijma. I mean, someone, Umar making khutbah in Medina, something that concerns every Muslim, and the Sahaba are in Kabul, they will assume that this is ijma and call it ijma. Now here, everybody who is concerned about this is in that place. So if they agree, it is ijma. The people of Medina, they don't have say in this matter, because they have not been in the battle. Did the Prophet, just because he heard yes, 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 and he didn't hear any no, did he say this is ijma and therefore I am going to act upon it? No. He said, oh people, I don't know who agreed, who didn't. So go back to your places. Your leaders will come to you and they will clarify with you. This is the ijma. The Prophet, any ijma that you do, the Prophet didn't see it to be halal to take property of people just by guessing, but assumptions. And you come, any hukum that you do is going to make halal blood of a person, is going to make halal a property of a person, it will make a burden of another person, whatever, every hukum that you make in the religion, either you are making obligation on him or making things haram on him. By what? Assumptions. Well, this is not what the Prophet used to do. As for the question of the Sahaba being trusted with the Quran, tell me how everybody, if you mean by trusted by the Quran, Ibn Amir, Hamza, Kasai, all these people are trusted by Quran. We are all trusted by Quran to protect the Quran. It is Allah who protected the Quran.
They compiled it.
Compiled it like what? Doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Quran, في صحف مطهرة يتلو عليهم صحفا, that he has sent a prophet to read to them books? In the time of the Prophet, was not the Prophet calling Zayd ibn Thabit every time? This is hadith in Bukhari, that he calls Zayd ibn Thabit every time an ayah is revealed, and he asked him to write it down. You see, when
we're not talking about the writing, we're talking about
compiling them,
taking out all the abrogated texts, putting it all in one mushaf,
yes,
and burning all the other copies of mushaf.
The Quran that is abrogated, the Quran that is abrogated, it has nothing to do. The Quran that has been abrogated, it has been lifted. People have even forgotten it. They don't know even where this ayah can be. They don't know this ayah. The surah, Allah has caused them to forget all the surahs. And it was abrogated at the time of the Prophet. Anas bin Malik said, the 2 or 3 ayahs that we remember is the ayah, for example, about the people who were killed at the time of the Prophet. And there was Quran being recited. And then it was lifted. The compiling of the Quran together, if you want to mean the compiling of the Quran surah, that is wrong. It's not. Nobody should think that the surahs that people have came with the Quran and put this ayah here and this ayah, like سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى. Probably if the Sahaba agreed, it would have been سبح اسم ربك الأعلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى. No. The way the order it is in, this is the way it was revealed to the Prophet. And if you call this ijma', then I tell you this ijma' is not ijma'. If you mean the compiling of the surah.
Yeah, but I mean there were some surahs that some ayahs were revealed and they were placed in a surah later on, many years down the line.
Yeah.
So let's say the whole of Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed in...
I'll tell you something. The Prophet said...
Sorry, also just to add, yeah?
Yeah, but let me finish one answer, one question before you, because we will know. Now, the Prophet says, whoever reads the last two ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah at night, it will be enough for him. So there is a surah which is Al-Baqarah, and there is two ayah at the end of it. The Prophet says, whoever memorizes the last 10 ayah of Surah Al-Kahf, he will be protected from Dajjal. So there is a surah which is called Surah Al-Kahf, known to the Sahaba, and from the Prophet, and it has the last 10 ayah in it. Ibn Abbas said the Prophet died. It was 10 years. This hadith, the first hadith is in Bukhari, the second hadith is in Muslim. This hadith of Ibn Abbas is in Bukhari as well. That the Prophet died, I have memorized the Mufassal. The Mufassal, the last surahs, the Mufassal, there is different opinions whether it starts from Surah Al-Hujurat or whatever. So there was surah that are called Mufassal, and they are known. And to make it even clearer, the hadith of Ubay ibn Ka'b, which is in Muslim Ahmad, Abu Dawud, the Prophet was praying, and then he missed the surah. He missed an ayah in the middle of surah. So the surah is compiled, and then he says at the end, is Ubay there? Why did you stop? What stopped you from telling me? Like, stopping me when I made a mistake, when I didn't read this ayah. What stopped you from telling me? And the hadith of Aisha in Bukhari, where the Prophet was in the house and someone reading the Quran in the mosque, and the Prophet remembered an ayah. He says, look, may Allah have mercy on him. He just reminded me on this ayah from this surah, which I have made to forget. So the Quran was compiled. And if you call it Ijma' of Sahaba, no, it is not Ijma' of Sahaba. Because in Bukhari, from Aisha, the hadith of Yusuf ibn Mahak, he said, we were with Aisha, and Iraqian came. And he said, O al-Mu'mineen, give me your Mashaf. She said, why do you want my Mashaf? He said, because I want to compile the Quran the way it is in your Mashaf. She said, what does it matter? Any way you read it is fine. The Quran, when it was revealed at the beginning, it was only about fear and Jannah and hellfire. There was no harar and haram. Any way you read it is fine. At the end, she gave him her Mashaf. So she doesn't agree with the compiling really. She thinks that any way you read the Surah is fine. So this is not an ijma' if you are using ijma' here. The Mashaf of Abdullah bin Mas'ud was different. And the Mashaf of Ali bin Abi Talib was different to the Mashaf of the Sahaba. Ali bin Abi Talib used to compile Quran in the order that was having revealed. And Abdullah bin Mas'ud, the people of Kufa, they call it Mashaf of Abdullah bin Mas'ud because it was compiled in a different way. So this is not ijma'. We are not talking now about the Quran. We are talking, you are using ijma' here. This is not ijma' then. Because there is Sahaba who contradicted here. What do you want to say?
That they're saying that the Sahaba, the way the Quran came was through narration from these Sahaba.
Yeah.
So the Quran has been narrated to us from them.
Yeah.
And they say Allah is pleased with them and they're pleased with Allah
Yeah.
and they're trustworthy
Yeah.
and they've bought the Quran.
Yeah.
So if there's, let's say, imagine there's 100 Sahaba,
Yeah.
okay, and they're saying when 100 Sahaba come together,
Yeah.
it must be law, yeah, it must be haqq, because these 100
What did the Sahaba
came together to agree on the Quran that we have today.
What did the Sahaba do here except doing what anyone should have done today if the Sahaba have not done it today?
But they've done it. I mean, you're making you're giving hypotheses, but it's already been done.
Yeah, it has been done, but I not see that they have done anything that is not from the religion. They took Quran, which was written at the time of the Prophet, and put it together. They took a Mus'haf, which was part of it here, part of it here, part of it here. They put it together.
Yeah, but their argument is that they've been trusted because the Prophet has died now, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
He's died, and he's left them, and they've been trusted to put it together and not make a mistake.
The Prophet had a guarantee from Allah. We do trust the Sahaba. But please, we are talking here, I am talking with intelligent people, with an argument. I mean, the Sahaba, Allah has said and made a guarantee that He will protect the Quran. And the Prophet was not worried. If he has a guarantee from Allah, he had the smallest worry about Quran being protected. Even if this Quran was with Musaylim al-Kadhab, if Allah said it will be protected, it would have been protected. And the Sahaba were the best people to do that. However, what have they done that it is not in the Quran or Sunnah? I mean, the Sahaba have agreed that the prayers are 5. And the Sahaba have agreed, or I say, they might have agreed that the prayers are 5, or the alcohol is haram. But it's fine. It's very good that they have agreed. Did they agree on something that is from Quran and Sunnah? Yes. And we have no problem with that. We are following it. I am praying 5 prayers. It's not because the Sahaba have agreed. I am praying 5 prayers because the Prophet said it. I am considering alcohol to be haram because the Quran said. It's not because the Sahaba agreed. If they have different opinions about this, still I will consider it to be haram.
Yeah, but the question here is, you went into some length, some detail when you were mentioning about Muawiyah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we go a little bit deeper and we start talking about Sayyidina Ali and Umar and Abu Bakr, the greatest.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we're saying is that the majority of them, if not all of them, with exception to 1 or 2, they agreed that they wanted to compile this Quran in this way. They all agreed on the order. So but your earliest statement about Muawiyah was, we can't question him. Allah chose him to be one of the Prophet's Sahaba.
Yeah, we don't question Abu Bakr as well.
Fine. So in the same way, we don't question the group of Sahaba.
We don't question doesn't mean when we question, we don't question the character. That's true. We question the religion.
But why did
we say where did you look what Muawiyah have done? I don't question him as a person saying that, oh Muawiyah, you are a bad person. I don't say that, but I say what Muawiyah has done is wrong. If I was there, I would have never joined the army of Muawiyah.
Okay, but Ilyas, you've mentioned in the past.
Yes.
You mentioned in the past, in the last discussion we had on Usul, you mentioned that the dhikr that Allah has protected is not just Quran, it's also the Sunnah.
Yes.
Fine. Now, if there is a hadith, mutawatir, from group to group to group to group, you will take that hadith, mutawatir, over a single chain narration.
Yes.
Fine. Now, what you've done...
But here, so now you misunderstood, then here, what you have done is you misunderstood the difference between Ijma and Tawatur. Because Tawatur is not Ijma. Tawatur is a group of people from a group of people telling us that Allah, that the Prophet have said this, and because these people are trustworthy, we accept. We are looking, can people, we are not questioning the character of the people, we are not questioning the trustworth, if they are trustworthy or not. I accept if Ahmed bin Hanbal tells me that Shafi'i told him, that Malik told him, that Nafi' told him, that Ibn Umar told him, that the Prophet said so and so, I will not question them. They are trustworthy people. If Ahmed bin Hanbal or Shafi'i or Malik or Nafi' or Ibn Umar say this is haram, I will question them. I will say, where did you get it from? So there is difference between calling mutawatir and saying ijma'. Ijma' is question, or the ummah will agree and make a hukm.
So it's the ijtihad at best.
Make a hukm. Doesn't matter where this hukm I have to question, where did you get it from? Now, when you tell me the example that I have not answered yet, that Abu Umar with the 6 Sahaba have agreed about 3 days. Now, does ijma' abrogate ijma'? Ijma' doesn't abrogate ijma' according to the people who. And we have an earliest ijma' where the Sahaba left the Prophet unburied less than 3 days, 1 night and 1 day, to make bay'ah, and they left an obligation to bury a dead person, the best person. That ijma' how can be abrogated by another ijma' who comes later, when Abu Bakr is dead now, and Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, the best Sahaba, have died, and they were in that first ijma', if you consider to ijma' to be sahih. So,
but wasn't the burial of the Prophet delayed for 3 days and 2 nights as well?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't for 3 days and 2 nights. No. However, the Prophet have said hadith which is clear that من مات وليس في عنقه بيعة, whoever dies and has no bay'ah in his neck, then his death is one of the jahiliyyah. And there was people in the 3 days who died. These people should have tried their best and discussed this matter to elect a Khalifa. We are not talking about people who were far away and think that they are still on the bay'ah of Abu Umar because they have not heard. But the people of Medina, they should say, we are not sure that we will live for 3 days. Therefore, this matter should be resolved right now. Just as soon as Umar ibn Khattab died. Not even a second. Not a split of a second. You see, as soon as Umar died, the person that you think who is eligible, straight away, you go and make bay'ah for him. Even if he is not present, you will declare that I am. And the person who does it, the person who should be followed. Finished. When Umar died, everybody, in the terms, you see, the Sahaba are the best people in the sight of Allah. And we respect them in that way. When to come to hukm of Sharia, then the blood, if Sahabi, let's say, someone, a tabi'i kills a Sahabi by mistake or whatever, which is a big sin. We are not going to kill many tabi'in for, it's one person for a person. The blood is equal. I mean, if Abu Bakr, who is the most trustworthy person, goes to a judge and say, this person have stolen from me, what the judge should ask him? Do you have witnesses? Yeah. Huh? Even though we have no doubt that Abu Bakr has said the truth. So, in the same way, when dealing with these matters, any person at the time of the Sahaba, it is always, of course, as the respect of the Sahaba, he should go and to discuss with them and make them elect one person. But the person who got elected first, when Yazid ibn Muawiyah was elected, there was Sahaba living. He was not even one of the good tabi'in. But it's finished. It's an obligation on us to follow Yazid ibn Muawiyah. As long as he is Muslim and applying the rules. Even though the people who elected him is not the Sahaba, the best Sahaba who gathered and elected him. Something similar could have happened in these 3 days where Umar has allowed these people to think. That is his ijtihad. And the ijtihad of Umar stays the ijtihad of Umar. I mean, we have the respect of the Sahaba, but you have always to remember something. We respect Umar because of the rank that we believe Allah has given him. We love Umar for the sake of Allah, we don't love Allah for the sake of Umar. And therefore the hukum of Allah is always has priority. No matter how you love a person, always you remember why. It's because of Allah and the hukum of Allah. And you can be humble as much as you like. You can look at yourself as to be the lowest of the lower of the lowest. Now it's very good. Never do this when it comes to the hukum of Allah. You have to apply the hukum of Allah. Anyway, we have to stop now. So.